Hello everybody, welcome back to another brand new episode of Mega Projects. We're kicking it old school today with the Taj Mahal, but just before we get to that kicking, this video is brought to you by KiwiCo. What does KiwiCo do? Well, surprise, surprise, I am going to tell you. Well, they are redefining the future of play with hands-on projects and toys that are designed to expose kids to STEAM concepts. Now, you've probably heard of STEM, but STEAM is basically where you have STEM, but you throw in art as well, because why not? I don't know, I was a kid once, I loved art. It's like the fun subject. KiwiCo comes as a monthly crate that allows kids to learn at home. They are all designed by experts, sensibly, and they are tested by kids, also sensible. Each month carries a new theme and it's about hands-on learning. There are 8 subscription lines for different ages and topics, and you're bound to find something that your kid loves. Importantly, everything you need is in the box. I actually have a box right here. In fact, this is the box from last time. I didn't get a new box in time for this new ad read, so I actually have one. This is what I haven't used because I don't have a kid who's 14 plus, but I do have a kid who is like 11 months old now, and I got the box for like under 1 year old or whatever it was, and I took that home. And my kid has, it's no longer in a state that I could show it on camera. It has been chewed on, it has been abused, but there was great joy in that abuse. So why not go over to the store, find something that you like to do with your kid. This 14 plus one is building a pair of stereo headphones, by the way, so that's fun. Just click the link below and let's get into it. There are 2 kinds of people in the world, said ex-President Bill Clinton. Those who have seen the Taj Mahal and love it, and those who have not seen the Taj Mahal and love it. Widely regarded as one of the most beautiful buildings ever constructed, the Taj Mahal is difficult not to fall deeply and madly in love with. Construction of this sumptuous ivory-white mausoleum began just under 400 years ago, and it is a testament to the Taj Mahal that it has retained such iconic beauty. To make it all the more sentimental, it was built for love, or rather, for love and loss. It was commissioned in 1632 by the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan, who reigned from 1628 to 1658 as a tomb for his favorite wife, Mumtaz Mahal, who died giving birth to their 14th child. It was the emperor's drive for beauty and perfection that led to this dazzling icon, but it was the ache of grief which inspired it all. And I don't know about you, but there's certainly something wonderfully poetic in that. A piece of land outside the city of Agra, 206 kilometers south of Delhi, was chosen for the Taj Mahal. The site measured roughly 3 acres, around the same as one city block in Manhattan, and it was first excavated and then filled with dirt to reduce the chance of seepage. The whole area was then leveled out around 50 meters above the nearby Yamuna River. The foundations, or footings as we would probably say, for the tomb area of the Taj Mahal were created by digging several wells and then filling them with stone and rubble. A typical large construction at the time would have used scaffolding made out of lashed bamboo, but the Taj used an enormous brick structure instead. Essentially, they built another building so that they could build the Taj Mahal, and it was said to mirror its shape. According to local legends, the emperor decreed that anybody could keep the bricks once the Taj was completed, and so the entire scaffolding structure just disappeared overnight. The Taj Mahal contains 28 different types of precious and semi-precious stones and materials that were brought from far and wide for this hugely ambitious project. The iconic marble came from MAKRANA in the western state of Rajasthan. Punjab provided the jasper, while jade and crystal were brought from China. The turquoise was from Tibet. The lapis lazuli, a semi-precious deep blue metamorphic rock, from Afghanistan. The sapphire from Sri Lanka, and the carnelian from Arabia. An estimated 1,000 elephants and countless oxen were used to transport the vast amount of materials, while 22,000 workers toiled on the project, including laborers, artists, stonecutters, painters, and embroidery artists. Even getting the materials to the area was an enormous challenge. A 15-kilometer tamped earth ramp was constructed that led to the building site. Then there was the complication of how to get these mighty blocks of marble into the air. For this, a post and beam pulley system, which became popular years later to build traditional houses in Europe with their heavy beams, was implemented. Water was another tricky aspect, and building a site like this needs plenty of it. Water was drawn from the nearby river by an animal-powered rope and bucket mechanism and deposited into a large tank. It was then funneled through 3 more subsidiary tanks before arriving at the construction area. The tomb itself took 12 years to complete and was finished in 1643. This was then followed in order by the minarets, the mosque, and finally the Jawab, a building built opposite the mosque in exactly the same style to add some balance and has sometimes been used as a guest house. In total, the rest of the building work took an additional 10 years to finish, and it was concluded in 1653. The cost of the Taj Mahal is a difficult calculation to make, but it is believed the original cost was around 32 million rupees, which works out to nearly 55 billion rupees in today's money. That's close to $1 billion. An extraordinary amount of money almost 400 years ago. The design of the Taj Mahal is based on traditional Persian and Mughal architecture. The GUR-E AMIR in Samarkand, which lies in present-day Uzbekistan and was built over 200 years before the Taj, bears a loose resemblance, albeit much less striking. The tomb of the Mughal Emperor Humayun in nearby Delhi also shares many similarities to the Taj, including its gardens, general layout, tomb, and was built almost 100 years before the gleaming mausoleum in Agra. It was the color of the Taj Mahal that really differentiates it from other Mughal architecture that predates it, though. Most structures before it were built with red sandstone, but Emperor Shah Jahan believed that ivory white and studded with precious stones added a touch of refinement, and it's difficult to argue with him on that one. The tomb is without question the most iconic aspect of the Taj Mahal. The enormous structure stands on a square plinth, which is the base area and is similar to what you have at the foot of statues. The building is perfectly symmetrical and comes with a large arch-shaped doorway known as an Iwan. The cubed space inside measures 55 meters along each of the 4 sides, but because of the chamfered corners, transitional edges, the structure appears more of an unequal octagon shape inside. The walls of the inner chamber rise 25 meters high and are topped with a spectacular dome 35 meters in height, which, because of its slightly irregular shape, has become called an onion dome. 4 smaller domes, known as chhatris, are located at each corner of the building. 4 minarets, each measuring 40 meters in height, stand at the 4 corners of the plinth. The traditional role of a mosque's minaret is to broadcast the call to prayer, and the minarets at the Taj Mahal were no different. They are broken into 3 by 2 separate balconies that ring the minaret. At the top of each minaret is another balcony and a chatri in the same style as those on the tomb. If you think the Taj Mahal is beautiful from the outside, though, just wait until you step inside it. The interior is decorated with a dazzling array of gemstones, a technique known as a lapidary. In the center of the tomb lie 2 sarcophagi, one for Mumtaz Mahal and one for Emperor Shah Jahan, but these are empty, with the actual graves at a lower level, inaccessible to the general public because Islam forbids the elaborate decoration of graves. The Emperor's sarcophagus has an inscription that reads, "He traveled from this world to the banquet hall of eternity on the night of the 26th of the month of Rajab in the year 1076 Hijri." It's not until you get up close and personal with the Taj Mahal that you realize just how extraordinary the exterior design is. Across almost the entire structure, you can find calligraphy or images of plants or vegetation. If you know your Islam, you will know that anthropomorphic images, those of humans or animals, are prohibited, which is why you will only find words or vegetative motif. This was done to dazzling effect by a combination of paint, stucco, a decorative coating, stone inlays, and carvings. Passages of the Quran can be found across the structure, with much of the calligraphy done with jasper or black marble. As you make your way through the Great Gate, the sentence above you reads, "O soul, thou art at rest. Return to the Lord at peace with him, and he at peace with you." The typical iconic image of the Taj Mahal is usually taken quite far back, taking in much of the garden that surrounds it, and in particular the long water feature that leads to the tomb. This is no coincidence, because the reflection of the Taj in the water makes a quite exquisite photograph. This is known as HAWD AL-KAWTHAR, after the tank of abundance, which are ponds or rivers in paradise, which were promised the Prophet Muhammad. The garden itself is a 300-meter square, officially of Mughal design, but heavily influenced by Persian Persian gardens. The area is divided into quarters, which symbolizes the 4 flowing rivers of Jannah, paradise. These are then subdivided again into 4 distinct flower beds and reflect a style of garden known as the Paradise Garden from old Iranian tradition. According to early accounts of the garden, it was rich in vegetation with roses, daffodils, and fruit trees throughout the area. However, with the decline of the Mughal emperor, which culminated with the end of the last emperor in 1858, the luscious gardens of the Taj Mahal fell into disrepair. The British had been expanding their control in India and eventually assumed control of the Taj Mahal and did everything they could to preserve the original aspect of the garden. No, they didn't. They dug it all up and tried to emulate the grand lawns that were common in Britain at the time, because of course they did. Now I know what you're thinking, bloody Britain and their horrible colonial ways, and well, yes, you're right. However, it was the British Viceroy who ordered an enormous restoration process on the Taj Mahal that was completed in 1908, so at least there's that. During World War II, giant scaffolding was erected around the Taj Mahal to effectively disguise it against any would-be Japanese bombers. As it turned out, they never did attack Agra, but Calcutta was attacked in 1942. The great scaffolding went up twice more throughout the years in 1965 and 1971, when the Indian government this time were worried about Pakistan, but again, it was never attacked. Perhaps the biggest threat to the Taj Mahal comes not from foreign nations, but from the surrounding environment. The groundwater of the nearby Yamuna River is falling by around 1.5 meters each year, and there are growing fears that it could destabilize the entire structure. In 2010, small cracks began to appear on the tomb, while the 4 minarets showed signs of tilting, possibly because of rotting foundations below. In 2019, it was announced that the stones around the tomb would be replaced, but this appears to be primarily aimed at the stones worn down by millions of feet, rather than the foundations themselves. Other serious problems come from air pollution and occasionally acid rain. When we think about the Taj Mahal, we think about beautiful ivory white colors, but that might not be forever. Evidence shows that the Taj Mahal is slowly yellowing as a result of the pollution around it. In response, the Indian government has set up the Taj Trapezium Zone, a 10,400 square kilometer area around the monument where emissions and pollution are tightly controlled. Now you might be wondering, well, what possible controversy could exist over such a cherished building? Well, actually you'd be surprised, but you probably wouldn't be surprised to hear that it comes down to religion. The problem is that India is predominantly Hindi these days, and, well, the Taj Mahal is very much Islamic. We could probably do several videos worth of material on the disagreement and often horrific aggression that exists between Hindus and Muslims in India. It is a hugely complex issue that dates back to the partition of India and even before. The ruling party in India, the BJP, are not exactly sympathetic to India's Muslim minority, and several of its MPs have jumped on a controversy that began in the late 1990s. Purushottam Nagesh Oak, a Hindu historical revisionist with some, shall we say, rather alternative views, lodged a petition with the Indian Supreme Court claiming that the Taj Mahal had in fact been built by a Hindu king. Oh, and by the way, he also claimed that the Vatican and Westminster Abbey were also both once Hindu temples because, well, okay. Anyway, the Supreme Court ruled against his wild theory in 2000, but that still hasn't stopped several court cases proceeding along similar lines. Numerous BJP MPs have thrown their own ideas into the public sphere. Was the Taj actually built on the site of a Hindu temple? Should we destroy the Taj Mahal and build a temple in its place? We're really not joking here. Luckily, it seems there are just enough reasonable people in the Indian parliament that none of these ideas are taken too seriously, but things heated up again in 2017 when the Taj Mahal was left off an official tourism brochure for Uttar Pradesh, the state it is in, because it was said to not reflect true Indian culture, with one politician going as far as calling it a blot on the country's culture. There's not really anything I can say to that, except that if it really is a blot, I can imagine that almost any country on earth would be more than willing to take such a horrid structure off India's hands. These arguments are, of course, a bit ridiculous and point more to the state of affairs between India's religious communities than the Taj Mahal. In 2007, the Taj Mahal was inducted into the new Seven Wonders of the World, and I don't think anybody would disagree with that. Roughly 8 million people visit the site every year, and there's probably no one who isn't moved by this extraordinary structure when they visit. I think we can safely say that there is simply nothing on Earth quite like the ivory white mausoleum on the banks of the Yamuna River. Radiating in the hot Indian sun, a pearl to the achievements of the past. The Taj Mahal continues to take the breath away nearly 400 years after construction began. Today, with our modern technology, we strive for beauty and perfection, and yet we still remain in the shadow of a tomb built centuries ago with the help of elephants and oxen. True perfection surely doesn't exist, but the closest we've ever come just might be the Taj Mahal. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, smash that like button below. Please don't forget to support our fantastic sponsor, KiwiCo, who I'm linking to below. And thank you for watching.